far reaches of space, the year 4392 AA. The future seems lonely. Rules and restrictions have been placed in order to prevent the second coming, and outcasts have been sent to alternative planets with sufficient money to create their own lives. Somewhere in the deep reaches of space, on the planet Zion, the humble sentient Lasagna resides in his establishment, the Grand Lasagna. But what of his origin? Where did he come from? It all began as thus. The Mafia family gathered round to share their famous lasagna one last time before saying goodbye to their sons and daughters. But as the Mafia were strong in number, they were also wise, and they had derived a plan for their offspring to keep their name alive. Giovanni Valentina Pastroni Letizzi had just been celebrating his 21st birthday, and as with all the Mafia's children, it was time for him to be placed in a cryogenic pod that would transport him and many others like him to a new home planet to start their new lives. Once they arrived at their chosen destination, their pod would start a reanimation process. This process was usually quite harmless, but not for Giovanni. You see, he knew he would never get to try his mama's lasagna ever again, and promptly placed leftovers in his coat pocket before entering his pod. This night would be one that would haunt Giovanni forever. You may not believe in the flying spaghetti monster, but I assure you, he is as real as the blood, sweat, and tears from Giovanni as his pod hit an asteroid and spiraled out of control. What happens next had not happened since the Great Apocalypse of 3984 BA. All the stars and planets had aligned in such a way it aggressively pulled the pod out of its orbit and began to spin out of control. While it's regaining its center of gravity, Giovanni's pod had begun to go into overdrive. The cryogenic mechanisms that had kept him silently asleep had suddenly malfunctioned, causing his body to slip in and out of cardiac arrest, causing him to be alive 1 second and dead the next. Suddenly, as if by a miracle, a wormhole opened up. The spaghetti monster, or so he likes to be called, Riccardo Bonsaretti, placed his spaghetti upon the pod, injecting his powers of space and pasta into Giovanni's core as he granted him life itself. The pod spiraled towards an unknown planet that would soon be named Zion. Giovanni's pod began to unfreeze at a faster rate, but this time his body matured and evolved. But not how you'd imagine. The lasagna in his pocket began morphing and disfiguring his face and mind. His face melting, his eyes bulging. The pain became more and more intense. Every single bone, muscle, and vein feeling like a million knives, until finally he succumbed to his pain and collapsed. When he awoke, he examined his surroundings. His eyes began to focus just enough to notice another pod in the distance. He slowly shifted towards it. As he moved closer, an image came into view. The pod's logo, severely eroded from the re-entry, with only the word Buttman visible. This was in fact not Buttman, but the Buttman Space Foundation, the company that had also concocted a very similar plan to Giovanni's Mafia family. Inside was the president's son, but without a name or family. Together, Giovanni and his now adopted son, Buttman, created their own home far away from home, and the rest is history.